yesterday.
Now, you could send Windows, but you might ask, well, how many are, how higher? Then the medium RPM, then the medium RPM.
Much later.
Hello everyone, we saw the highest RPM player in history video last month, and thank you to all of the 40,000 of you who checked it out. And some of you asked what is the who are the lowest RPM players in history, and if they are famous or successful. So let's check that out. Of course, it's not easy to determine who was or is the lowest RPM player or who they are. And maybe it's not as exciting. So instead we're going to check if low RPM players were or are presently successful or famous. However, it would be fun if we could make a compilation of very low RPM players. Now you could send videos of those, of yourself or some other player you saw, and you could send those videos to my email or by direct message in the Facebook page. They are both in the description. And let's see who can find the lowest RPM player. Now, for today's video, we have to determine what low revs is going to be. And let's set something straight. No average RPM of a pro player can be taken for granted. Why? Because we don't have statistics for those kinds of numbers. The only source of numbers for this would be Specto, and Specto does not yet measure RPM correctly. I've spoken to their team, and maybe in the future, but for now we can't measure it that way. So what's the next best thing? We're going to split the RPM range in 3 categories. Category 1, lots of revs. Category 2, meh, decent. And category 3, you get it. Okay, jokes aside, high, medium, low. Now notice I did not say cranker, twinner, stroker, as these are a little bit arbitrary and more of a casual terminology that also describes the style, not just the revs. So here, today we want to see if medium to low or low RPM players have been famous or successful. You might ask, at what number is medium or low RPM? Well, let's just say that below 350 or 300 RPM, it can be considered low. Today's game has evolved to a place that 400 RPM is medium, or maybe 300 to 400 is medium. So let's say 350 and below, we're going to say that these are players with medium-low RPM, and see how many of those were successful. So with that out of the way, let's proceed. What do we need? We need stats. The PBA has logs that have not been digitized yet, so I had to fish around the interwebs for any statistics I could find. Of course, that means that the info may not be 100% accurate, so keep that in mind. Okay, very few sources and lists, and most of them a little bit outdated. The best one was this one, mcubed.net, which has sports history. This is an all-time list by wins, and on the other columns we see finalists, so how many times a player ended up in the finals, and top 5 positions. It's a decent storyteller, but it isn't 100% updated, unfortunately. Good for comparing the basic picture of things though. In the end, it was best to opt for the most updated source, which was Wikipedia. Okay, here we are, so let's check the names from the top and assign the players in the 3 low, medium and high RPM categories that I mentioned earlier. So first off, of course, Walter Ray Williams, low RPM, Earl Anthony, also low, Norm Duke, low, Pete Weber, low, maybe low to medium, Parker Bond III, medium, Mark Roth, high, Dick Weber, low, Mike Colby, low, Jason Belmonte, high, Don Johnson, low, Brian Voss, medium, Marshall Holman, medium, Amleto Monacelli, high, of course, Tommy Jones, of course, high, Dick Ridger, low, Wayne Webb, medium, Chris Barnes, medium, for today's standards at least, Nelson Burton Jr., low, Dave Davis, low, Billy Hardwick, low, and Dave Sutar, low. So historically, the most successful were the low RPM players, then the medium, and then the high RPM players. Interesting. But is this an accurate picture of how bowling is today? Probably not. After all, the sport has evolved. Let's face it, accumulating titles takes time, and this list has been forming for many decades when most of the players were low to medium RPM. So it is no surprise that most of the people in this list are going to be low and medium RPM players. So let's check today's rankings and today's statistics and see whether this picture or by how much this picture has changed. Okay, here we have a 2022 list of top players in, I suspect, a combination of earnings, points, wins, etc. And let's take it from the top. We have our first player is Belmonte, is high RPM. Then Simonsen, high. Tackett, high. Barrett, high. Prather, high. Tommy Jones, high. Butterf, high. Sean Russ, high. Let me scroll down. Sean Russ, yeah. Kyle Troop, high. AJ Johnson, high. Kyle Sherman, power player as well. Brad Miller. So we have to reach the 12th position to find our first non-high RPM player, and then the list goes on with more power players. We maybe we can say that Bill O'Neill is a medium. Medium. Okay, let's say Bill O'Neill is a medium. Sterner and Sterner too. Jake Peters has more revs. Norm Duke is our only low RPM. So 19th place is our first low RPM player of the top 20. And of course, Tom Doherty is very high power player. So out of the top 20, only one low RPM player and a couple of 2 or 3 medium RPM players. That is a huge difference versus the past. So as you see, things have changed dramatically. It seems that the advantage of extra accuracy that the medium or low RPM player had now is a smaller of an advantage or has been completely countered by the high RPM, more pin action advantage that the high rev rate guys have, even on mediocre shots. Sure, there are some low RPM players today that have been successful and are famous, like Norm Duke or Francois Lavoie, and some lefties that are low RPM, but have found some success from the left side. But it seems that the high RPM players have found enough accuracy that, combined with their increased carry and pin action and the ability to overpower the lanes, can keep having a consistent advantage over medium and low RPM players, which is another factor that makes our sport of bowling a not so even playing field sport. But I wonder, can something be done so that the medium and lower RPM players suffer less of a disadvantage compared to the high RPM players? What do you think? What do you propose? Write some of your ideas in the comments below and let's see if we can come up with anything useful. That's it for today, and if you want to support the channel, you can donate with the links in the description, and share and like the video and subscribe and say Beetlejuice 3 times. Thanks for watching.